Everybody, so happy that you are with us. Hope you enjoyed Ryan earlier today with Jerry Reynolds, and we'll revisit some of that conversation. How are you this evening, sir?
I am doing excellent. How about yourself, Napes?
I'm doing good. I found it very interesting to follow Tua's situation in Miami with former coach Brian Flores, who obviously isn't there anymore. He's with the Vikes, and he has been, he's been moving around a lot in his career. He got the lawsuit against the NFL. Tua really came out hard on him, boy. And, it was interesting because Flores responded to Tua's criticism. But the question I have, and we can revisit this, is why did it take Tua this long to make those comments?
It's a good question. People grow. Timing sometimes is everything. He's more of a veteran than he was a rookie. And, if what he says is true, maybe there's a reason he waited. He didn't want to get backlash. He wanted to have some standing in the league, Napes.
Well, not everyone might be aware of what Tua said. So why don't we go back and revisit some of the comments made, Ryan, and then, we can discuss it.
Yeah, let's do it. This is Tua, courtesy of the Dan Lebitard Show.
Well, to put it in simplest terms, if you woke up every morning and I told you you sucked at what you did, that you don't belong doing what you do, that you shouldn't be here, that this guy should be here, that you haven't earned this right, and then you have somebody else come in and tell you, dude, you are the best fit for this. Like, you are accurate, you are the best whatever, you are this, you are that. Like, how would it make you feel listening to one or the other? You see what I'm saying? And then you hear it, regardless of what it is, the good or the bad. And you hear it more and more, you start to actually believe that.
Interesting.
I think that there has been a generational shift to what we now deem as going overboard from a coach. For instance, Bobby Knight could never coach in today's era. He couldn't, right?
No, not a chance.
Okay, but the point is, Bobby Knight was fully accepted, embraced, coveted, and no one really criticized him while he was coaching in Indiana for his volatile behavior, right?
No, they didn't. Not at all.
Okay. And there were many other coaches along those lines that were on your ass, so to speak. On your ass verbally doesn't fly in our woke society anymore. It just doesn't.
Yeah, it's flipped on its head. And Grant, let's be
Even
real
the
about it.
military, by the way, right?
Sure. Yeah, they've had to tone it down. Great point.
Go ahead.
Absolutely. It's a great point with the military and boot camp. But some players needed that, Grant. I mean, back in my day, and we're separate generations, if the coach was giving you that much attention, that means that they saw something in you and you understood that. But now it's different. Bad words in some communities can't be said at certain schools. So it's an interesting dynamic how it changed because, Grant, even to this day, I bet you some people would say, I would want Bobby Knight to coach me.
I will tell you this. I talked to many players that played for Bobby Knight, and I worked with many players that worked or played for Bobby Knight. I worked with Quinn Buckner. He revered Bobby Knight as a god. I'm very close with Keith Smart. Many conversations about Coach Knight. Randy Whitman, got to know him well. Former Sacramento Kings player and coach. They talked about Bobby Knight with reverence. They talked about Bobby Knight as a life-changing experience while at Indiana. I always go back to the people that are closest to a situation to try to get their opinion when I hear stuff from the media.
Yeah.
Because stuff from, like, it would be like me telling everyone that I know what's going on in your house. I don't know what's going on in your house. I might have rumors, but I don't know for sure. You don't really know what's going on in a organization unless you're within the organization, right? So, listen, I wasn't a Bobby Knight fan. That wasn't my style. But my high school lacrosse coach was like Bobby Knight. And in retrospect, is one of the best experiences that I had in terms of growing me from a boy into a man. Does that make sense?
Yeah, what exactly do you think it was about that you brought away from that experience?
It was cutting corners is not acceptable
Yep.
on my field, and it's not acceptable in life. And if you cut corners here and I let you go get away with it, you're going to cut corners in the classroom and in real life, and you're going to pay for it. Cutting corners and going half-ass is not going to cut it. And I thought the message at that age, which again, your frontal lobes aren't fully developed until 22 or 23. So you don't always comprehend things at 18 or 17, I was, that you would at 25. All right. And the message was sent to me in forms of extra wind sprints, things of that nature, right? To completely reinforce that. And I was the best player on the team. I'm not bragging, but I was the best player on the team, and I was the captain. But he even called me aside one day and goes, listen, he goes, you're the captain. He said, I'm going to be harder on you because I need to use you as an example to the others. So he was really hard on me, right?
Oh yeah.
And in retrospect, I'm grateful for that experience. I learned a lot.
Yeah, no doubt. There was always something bigger to it. And I like how you talked about cutting corners and using that as an example, because a lot of times, and this isn't a blanket statement, there's just like in any profession, there's bad coaches out there that should not be around kids coaching them or high school pro athletes. You get my point. But for the most part, there is care put into that. It's part of something bigger, Grant.
I have shared this story on my podcast, and I don't want to go off on a big tangent here, but I'm going to give you a quick example. When I graduated from college, I was working at a local radio station in Bowling Green where I had done my internships, WKIQ. I was the morning disc jockey. All right. I had to go on the air at 6. I had to read the funeral report 3 days a week from Klotz Flowers on East Wooster Street.
Yes.
All right. Played the songs, did the news, the sports. I was an account executive, meaning that during the day I had to go out and try to solicit advertising. And I was the sports director and did a lot of the play-by-play of Bowling Green hockey. I'll never forget my first paycheck after taxes for the first pay period of half the month was $268. All right.
Mm-hmm.
After a couple of months, I don't know the exact timetable, but I was in the right place at the right time and had a chance to do television, filling in for the weekend sports anchor at the ABC station in Toledo. During that period of time, the radio station in Bowling Green where I worked was sold. My buddy Glenn Cerny sold it, and it became a Spanish format. I had no job. So I moved back home for a period of time on Long Island, unemployed. Michael Regai, the weekend sports anchor, who went on and was the television voice for both the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Baltimore Orioles, would call me on a Thursday and go, Napes, can you work this weekend? I'm like, yep. I'd get in my car on Friday, 10 hours in my Subaru, no air conditioning, and I would drive to Bowling Green, stay at my buddy's house, Glenn Cerny, do the sports for 5 minutes on Saturday night, 5 minutes on Sunday night, learn how to shoot video. I'd go to the Toledo Mud Hen games. Kirby Puckett was on that team. Greg Gagne, Tim Tuffle, the team that went on and won the World Series for Minnesota. I would go to Tiger Stadium. I would get whatever.
Sure.
$5 an hour is what they paid me. $5 an hour. I did that for 6 to 9 months until I could get a resume tape to flood markets. And that's how I was able to get my first full-time job in TV, which, by the way, my first full-time job in TV in 1984 in Decatur, Illinois, my salary was $12,300 a year. Sports on the weekends, news photographer during the week. I would go out and shoot automobile accidents, court hearings, city council meetings. And I really believe that what I experienced on the field in sport with hard-ass coaches prepared me for that. And I accepted it. And I believe it made me who I am today. I really believe that.
It's incredible. And I'm sure just people watching have stories like that. My high school coach in basketball, rest his soul, he's now deceased, rode me very, very hard, much like you, Grant. I played a lot of minutes, but if I made a mistake, I was pulled out. We had a Division I recruit on our team that was going to get a scholarship just about anywhere he wanted on the West Coast. And at that time, I was hoping to get my looks, right? You've got a lot of scouts coming in, coming out. And many times those scouts came to practice and he would humiliate me sometimes at practice, never crossing the line, but pointing out things in my head. That's not a big deal. When actually, when you look at the big story, it was a big deal. So,
Yep.
long story short, when I went and walked on at San Diego State, one of the big things that made a difference was that coach he found out, I never told him that I was walking on. He contacted San Diego State University in the basketball department, sent them a cut of my tapes, also sent them a letter, and talked to one of the assistant coaches. It made all the difference in the world. And it was the little things, Grant, being a 5'8" guy that could take a charge and wasn't scared to do that, which he always pushed me to do. That got me the opportunity to be a practice player. And I wouldn't change a damn thing in the world for it.
I remember in second grade, my teacher's name was Mrs. Hefner, elderly lady when I was in second grade. Second grade is what, 7 years old?
Mm-hmm.
When you made a mistake or you did something bad, if you were misbehaving, she would call you up in front of the class and she would have you put your hands out and she would slap your knuckles with her ruler. Can you imagine if that happened today?
Oh, you would be there if it was a little bit earlier, shooting the pictures of the school and the teacher.
Okay, now if a parent slaps their kid on the butt in public and someone complains and calls the authority, and you may think I'm going a little overboard, but I'm not.
Yeah.
That child can be taken to Child Protective Services. And the point I'm trying to make is there needs to be a line in our country, but I think the line now has gone so far to I'm not speaking politically here. I'm just saying to softness that I think it's affecting our country in a negative way, because I think that the younger generations are growing up to be so soft because they don't have that strictness. They don't have I can't think of the adjective right now, but there's the discipline. Maybe I'll use the word discipline.
Sure.
The discipline lacks now, in my opinion, from when, and again, you and I are separated by more than just one generation. So understand that when I grew up is completely different. When you grew up, and we have a lot of younger people, even on our stream right now, I believe that our society as in general, and I'm stereotyping, but I believe it to be true to a degree, is soft, right? What do we always hear? The greatest generation are World War II vets. That will be the greatest generation that ever lived. And I knew not only was my father a World War II vet, but all of his friends were World War II vets. And you know what? They were down to the earth, the salt of the earth people. Like there will never be another generation like that because of what they experienced growing up and what they did as true patriots for the United States of America. We'll never experience that again. I got a taste of that after 9/11. I thought that was the closest that we had come to a galvanized country. Now, with that said, I also had criticism from Muslims that said, yeah, well, you're not walking in our shoes. When we were discriminated against, we were fearful for our lives because we were being attacked. And you're right. I didn't think about that. But I'm speaking in generalities. And so I don't know where we're at in 2024, but I thought that Tua's comments, all right, were very interesting because he wasn't afraid to come out and say it. But I wonder if Tua would have been able to play for, let's say, Bill Parcells. Would have he been able to handle that type of a coach?
Probably not. Parcells, many stories about him. I want to follow up really quick, though, to what you said. I think that the generation or part of the problem is, Grant, we were able to be put in situations where we decided to push ourselves to beyond a limit that we thought that we could do. And that's when you learn something about yourself. But now a lot of times you have to operate within the confines of the rules, or you have to, there's never that opportunity to go past something and learn something about yourself. It's really different.
And not only that, when you were growing up in my era, you had a degree of responsibility at a young age. I share the story of this all the time. My dad worked in New York City, and I grew up on Long Island, and my grandparents lived not too far from where my dad worked on East 42nd Street, directly across from the Grand Central Station, before he relocated right next to the World Trade Center. And there were times when we would be going to a game, or we'd have a dinner that we had planned with my grandparents, or whatever the case may be. Sometimes I would go with my brother, sometimes I wouldn't. But I mean, I'm not exaggerating now. Second grade, third grade, I would get out of school, go home, which was right around the corner, leave, walk to the train station, which was about a half-hour walk down Split Rock Road or Berry Hill Road, depending on what I went. They both led to the train station. I would get on the train. Took about 45 minutes to go from Syosset to Jamaica.
And you had a cell phone with you, right?
What's that?
You had a cell phone with you, right?
Yeah. Sometimes would have to change trains at Jamaica to get onto the train to go to Penn Station. Other times the train would go straight through. I would ask the conductor, do I stay on or do I get off? And he would tell me. I did this at age 7.
Crazy.
I would get out in the middle of New York City in Manhattan. I would walk up the stairs and I would look for the Empire State Building. I would walk towards the Empire State Building because my grandparents lived 2 blocks from there. And once I got to where my grandparents lived, if I wasn't going there, I then knew that I walked down Park Avenue and that would lead me right to my dad's office. Now, can you imagine a parent doing that to a 7-year-old today? They would have their kids taken away from them, correct?
100%.
Okay.
You wouldn't, the train, the conductor would call on the spot.
That's
We've
right.
got a 7-year-old
They
on
would
his
call.
own.
And I'm not exaggerating one bit. Okay. That's what my life was like growing up. And I think I speak for a lot of other kids. And guess what? You didn't have a cell phone. You didn't have any way of having your parents get a hold of you if something happened. It was your responsibility, like me, to ask the conductor or go to a police officer or whatever the case may be if something was wrong. That even means when I left the house, hey, I'm going out, we're playing football. Okay, be home for dinner. That was it. Be home for dinner. Okay, what time's dinner? 7 o'clock. It was up to me to make sure that I was home by 7 o'clock. It wasn't like they could go find you or call you. You had to be home by 7 o'clock. There was that degree of responsibility instead of looking at your phone to see if your mom or dad have called or your aunt or your uncle or whoever's taking care of you to tell you, hey, you need to be home. No, it wasn't that. You needed to be home because you needed to be home because you were told to be home.
And you didn't have an alarm to set with you to tell you it's 6:55. I better get home at 7.
Yeah. So when I hear Tua's comments, it's a generational thing.
Yes.
An athlete would have never, ever said that 20 years ago, 25 years ago, 40 years, nothing. You know why? It was accepted. Now it's not accepted anymore because the players of this generation are programmed that that's not acceptable behavior from an authority. I read stories about what it's like in boot camp now. Can you imagine if that happened when my dad and his friends were going to boot camp preparing for World War II? Are you freaking kidding me? Or the Vietnam War, or I mean, things have changed across the board in society. In our country, not across the board around the world, across the board in the United States of America.
You know what? You are spot on. And Brian Flores, Tua, different times of growing up. Obviously, he was a player. He was coach. Grant, we've talked a lot about Tua. Let's talk about how Brian handled it on the flip side. He spoke to the media, and I thought his response, he started off saying he wishes Tua nothing but the best, no hard feelings. We'll pick it up from there.
Reflecting on the situation, communication, I think there's things that I could do better, for sure. And I've grown in that way. And I've tried to apply the things that I could do better and the things that I've learned, over the last, 2-3 years. But I would say over the long haul, I've had a lot of great relationships over my 21-year career here in the league. Players, coaches, personnel, equipment.
Work.
And we're cut off by an ad. But he had two players that stood up with him at the press conference to begin it. Grant, what struck me is how he handled it. He didn't lash out.
No.
He stood up, talked about his experiences, wished him the best. And that said a lot to me in this day and age.
Well, he has to, because he's currently a coach in the National Football League. And, he's got to make sure that his players continue to accept him. And so I think that's part of it. But I also think part of it is his character. And I was very happy to see that. I just think it's a very interesting dynamic here in 2024. It's a societal change that we've gone through with parents. I mean, again, I'm going to go back to this. If you were to spank your kid in public, okay, and someone sees that and goes to the authority, you have to answer questions, or they'll take your kid away. And I'm not exaggerating. I believe I know. I hate to say this. I have a friend that happened to, and I couldn't believe the story. And then I did a little more research and found out that it was true. So we live in a different country, man. It's different. And I'm not saying that it's bad or good. I mean, you can judge that however you want.
Sure.
I don't think it's necessarily good across the board. I mean, I think you can find good and bad with everything. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I do. Look, there's a reason policies are put in place. You're talking about the example of spanking in public. Teachers, mandated reporters. If a student comes in and says, hey, my dad hit me, but you were joking around, right? The teacher has to report that, right? But there are bad situations where parents are abusing their children. So you see the both sides of that, but it is tricky to navigate nonetheless, Grant.
It is. So we're talking about a lot of things. By the way, Cody has reached out and asked me if Sean Salisbury is coming on with me this football season. Yes, Cody and everyone else. Matter of fact, I just texted with Sean before he came on to the show. I'm trying to pick out the best day, and I wanted to get your take on this, the audience. We've done Mondays and we've done Fridays leading up to the college and NFL weekend. We've done Mondays, but then we don't get a chance to go over the Monday night game. So I'm thinking about Tuesdays at 3 o'clock Pacific, 5 o'clock Central for Sean, because that way we could also include the Monday night game. I need to do it at 3 o'clock because once basketball starts, there are 4 o'clock tip-offs, and I don't want to go head-to-head with the Kings. So I'm going to pick 3 o'clock. That won't interfere with your show at 2 o'clock, right, buddy?
No.
Okay.
We will make it work.
So I'm trying to think, should we do it on Mondays or Tuesdays or Fridays? I don't really like Fridays as much because when I travel, I normally travel on a Friday, and I don't want to miss shows with Sean. So I'm thinking Tuesdays at 3 o'clock, but I want to get the feedback here. That way we can talk about all of Sunday's action and Monday's action.
Yeah, give us your feedback. If you want to think about it, you can hit us up on X. Also, do not forget, I like Tuesdays, by the way, but do not forget, sign up for our fantasy football pick'em league, completely free to sign up through Yahoo Fantasy Sports. We actually have a couple of prizes coming in. We've got the $100 gift card donated by Jay and Kathy Griffiths to the winner, and we got word today that we received an anonymous donation for the winner as well. So totally free to play. We see the teams lining up. You can pick against Grant, myself, everybody else, and the spread. Make sure you get in there. Email me at rynoandsacktown@gmail.com with any issues or questions.
It's outstanding. And we had a lot of fun doing that last year, and we'll continue to have a lot of fun this year. So invite everyone to sign up. We would love to have you participate, and we'll have a lot of fun, and we can rib each other and get on each other and have a lot of fun with it.
Hey, your buddy Flynnbot, now that's a little bit of a weird name, but he was a pretty good picker last year, Napes.
Yeah, his name's Kevin Flynn, and his nickname was Flynnbot. and I don't even know why he got his nickname, but Kevin Flynn is a very good friend of mine, lives in Cleveland, unfortunately, and was my fraternity brother.
Very cool. Very cool. All right. Well, we're opening it up to you. It's open forum Tuesday. Take advantage of it. The link is in the chat. Also, QR code above Grant's shoulder. We kick it tonight kick it off with John. Welcome in.
Gentlemen, how are you?
What's up, John? How are you today, buddy?
I'm doing all right, man. It's been a trying day, but I finished 2 jobs, started another one, and I got 2 checks. So it's kind of what it's about. You know, my business is about money. So I did just fine today, and I gave everybody a great deal, and everybody treated me fantastic.
Is not about money?
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, almost. They almost are. They almost all of them are. Well, I wish football was about just getting rings, because if it was about that, you know, it would be different. But everything is a business these days, and that's what it is, guys. Ryan, how are you, my friend? I wanted to ask. I know it's been since it's no filter. How are your hips doing? I know it's been nearly a year now.
Yes, it has. Thank you for asking, John. They are great. I could not be happier. I walk with no pain, which is a far cry from where I was at this time last year. So incredibly, incredibly blessed.
Man, I'm so happy to hear that, man. I've got one that's ailing me, but sometimes I don't let it bother me as much as I should. But you were the smartest guy to go and get it looked at. I'm glad it's feeling great for you. Hey, college football. Does anybody talk about college football?
Careful. Go ahead. You need to be careful because you're pretty close to tripping on your beard, and I don't want you to fall and break your hip. So be careful, okay?
Oh, Lord above, Grant. You telling, well, we could start with some of the stories you told today, Grant, because this is just bringing back memories over the last handfuls of decades of some of the stories you've told of your father, and I've told some of my father and so forth, and some of the smartest people you meet are your own fathers and some of the most dedicated people, and Bert was one of them, and my father, Russell Raymond, was one as well. You know what I mean? So, Grant, you could talk forever and it wouldn't bore me, but I wanted to get on board and see if anybody talks about college football anymore, because I might be the only person who used to call your show and try to talk about Notre Dame, because I'm an Irishman like Ryno, a little UCLA, and it's weird that there's no Pac-10, what used to be Pac-8, Pac-10, 12, now is it the Pac-0? What is it now? It makes me want Corn Dog on, because recently Corn Dog has, Corn Dog, I found out recently is, man, he is one heck of an analyst, and if he's listening, he should hop on board, because I'd like to hear him talk too.
All right, Con Dog, go ahead.
5 minutes now?
Oh man, you know, I am just excited for college football this year. And I kind of wanted to piggyback a little on that last night conversation Grant had about players getting paid. And my only problem with NIL is that it's policed across the board. Like each school's the same, where, you know, Murray State just does not have the resources to keep up with the Alabama, Texas, or Michigan. You know, it's like your 5-year-old and 17-year-old are being parented the exact same way. Like for some reason, the 17-year-old has a 8:30 bedtime, but the 5-year-old's allowed to drive the car.
Right.
Good. Yeah. Well said.
Yeah, man, but it's right around the corner. We have week 0 and then week 1, and it is an epic week 1. You know, one of the best week 1s I've seen. We have great out-of-conference matchups, and it's the first year of the 12-team playoff. It's new conferences, realignment. It's going to be chaos. I love Saturdays. I love these crazy plays. Yeah, no, there's so many different games that just make you just like, whoa, what happened? Yeah. What happened?
I'm with you. I can't wait to watch college football. Sean Salisbury likes to talk about college football, so we'll be doing that on our shows. And listen, me and Ryan will talk about it as well. But our show is audience driven, so it's really what you all want to talk about. If you want to talk about college football, you call us up and talk about college football. That's how I've always run my shows. I like to talk about what the audience wants.
Yes, indeed.
Hey, Grant, you're spot on. You're spot on, Grant. We've been doing that for so long. And I love it that this platform has people that have more information. I didn't know corn dog, because you started that. It's corn dog, but you said, corn dog. It sounds like corn. But man, what a great nickname for corn dog. And well done. I didn't know he was such an enthusiast about college football, because I am
And the
as well. And
Olympics.
Grant,
Don't
you
forget
and I
about
are
the
one of the
Olympics,
few
man.
who have used to talk about it.
Yeah.
Hey, Condog. So if you want to talk about NIL and college football for a second, let me take you back to yesterday. You guys remember Mike Gundy saying the time was over to talk about money? Here he
I
was.
recall.
All the money stuff and NIL and all that. It's out. It's interesting and all that, but
That's what I told the players.
you can just,
There's no negotiating now.
you can just,
Portal's over.
you can enjoy,
All negotiations history. Now we're playing football.
you can
Then it comes out today, everybody, Grant, Condog, John, that the Oklahoma State Cowboys are going to be wearing QR codes on the back of their helmets, linking to an NIL fund for the school. Reaction.
How the heck am I at home going to be able to scan that QR code? Like,
That is super innovative. And hey, just because they're doing it first, that doesn't mean that that's not coming along. That's been done in aircraft for pilots and stuff. That's coming along. Just
I would
wait.
have to have my phone out at like the exact time to just scan that QR code, because they have to get back lining up and stuff. Like, they can't just focus on the back of the helmet for that long.
Well, I would
I
like
guess
to have.
you're right.
I would like to have an NIL on this show so I can make a little money with Ryan. So, maybe even like $50 a week would be great. So
Yeah.
I might start that on.
Hey, it's up. It's up right now.
On if you don't like that.
Apes, it's over your shoulder.
Oh, if you don't
All right.
like that, you don't like this sort of content. So, Grant, I'm on board with you. Something needs to happen. Come on now. All the little guys got to get some.
Grant, the NIL funds right over your shoulder. Venmo donations. Hit the QR code, and our screen does not move.
Yeah, see,
So
that's
thank
the
you
QR
right
code
there.
I can hit.
I love it.
I
So,
cannot hit, players that are
Grant,
running-
you have been proactive as well. You've known
John?
a lot of things before a lot of others.
Yeah.
You have been proactive. However, Ryan and Haunted Horse, they've been more proactive on all of these podcasts and so forth. Between all of you guys and everything, this stuff that you guys have got going, man, it's going great, guys. We're going to be doing this for so long. People are going to be jealous of us. Maybe not me so much, but
John,
it's great, guys.
You're the best, John. You have a good evening. All right. You take care of yourself, and thanks for coming on.
Hey, you're not
Appreciate
hanging
you,
up
John.
now, Grant. Thanks, guys.
Thanks,
Thank
John.
you, bud.
Good
Love
stuff.
talking to John. He's got a great
Definitely.
heart.
John's
He's got a
great,
great
man.
spirit about him. John's one of my all-time favorites. Love that man. Love John.
If John
Condog,
finished,
who you picking? Who's all right? Let's jump ahead. College football starts this weekend over in Dublin, Ireland. Who's going to be the national champion this year?
You know what? Ryan Day gets it done. Buckeyes.
Wow. Okay.
I'm
All right.
going
We'll keep an
Buckeyes.
eye on it. Thank you, buddy.
Later.
appreciate
all
you,
right.
Condog.
Good stuff right there. I am so excited. I'm going to be at Bennett's several times, beginning on Sunday for brunch. Don't forget about their summer specials. They got chill out going on. 2 courses for $30, 3 courses for $35. There is something for everyone at Bennett's. They've got the weekend brunch, the weekend prime rib. They've got prime seafood and steak. Their happy hour every day, 2 to 6, sips and taste. I can't wait. I cannot wait to get back to Bennett's beginning Sunday, and I will be there multiple times over the next 2 weeks. Bennett'sRestaurants.com will get you all the information you need. Make a reservation and more. That's Bennett'sRestaurants.com.
Love it. Can't wait to get there with you, Grant.
Yep.
Looking forward to it. So we talked about that, the codes on the back of the helmets for Oklahoma State. How about Alabama? Not sure if you heard about this story, Grant, but Alabama football is hiring a general manager. His name's Courtney Morgan. He's going to make about $2.5 million over the contract. Comes out to about $825 million or $825,000 a year. You might be asking yourself, Napes, what the hell does a general manager do in college football? Take it right from the man.
I think the 50-foot view answer is just to bring together elite individuals in the building that can help lead the direction of what we're trying to do to win a national championship. It changes everywhere I go. There's more resources here in Alabama, so I was able to bring more people in. There are more talented individuals because we have more resources, more bigger budget. So I was able to go get, Aaron Hodges from TCU, who was at Ohio State. I was able to get Jatavis Sanders over at NC State, and Tony Jones, I was at Michigan with, and bring Jared McElwain. We have Bob Weldon.
So Corndog talks about resources not being all the same, but Grant, can we even call this college football anymore?
No, that would have never happened at Alabama if Nick Saban were still there. You know what it is? It's a waste of money is what it is. It's a waste of money. It's just over the top waste of money. And, I don't know what else to say. Speaking of Alabama, I don't know what to expect from them this year. This is a new era of Alabama football, and I will be at the first game a week from Saturday in Tuscaloosa, and I'm really looking forward to that. I don't know what to expect from Alabama this year. I really don't. They're currently ranked in the top 5, but I'm not so sure that they're a top 5 team, but that's why you play the games.
Yeah, I have a hard time knowing what to expect from the AP polls altogether. I've quit looking at the AP poll and gone straight to the Vegas lines because Vegas seems to usually get it right with the championship futures, and Bama's up there. But, I'd expect a tough, hard-nosed team. They always get physical, big guys. The question is, can that offensive spark, can Caleb DeBow really inspire a new group? Because with this NIL era, Grant, you're not going to get guys that are sticking around 3, 4, 5 years.
They got a good quarterback in Milroe. We'll see. Again, they are definitely a team that we don't know a lot about right now. All right, don't forget about New Works Plumbing. They are available for you around the clock for your plumbing needs and repairs. Just go to sacserviceplumbing.com or call the number on your screen. That's New Works Plumbing. They've got a fix for you. Again, you see the number, or you go to sacserviceplumbing.com and they will be there for you. New Works Plumbing, they've got a fix for you. I'm also hoping to get to Colusa next week and check out Sunrise Landing, this newest residential community in Colusa from Blazona Development. And there are multiple models to choose from. And if you go to ColusaSunrise.com, you can get more information on these beautiful homes. No Mellorews, no homeowners, great access to your major arteries such as I-5, Highway 45, Highway 20, adjacent to the Colusa Golf and Country Club. That's where you will find Sunrise Landing. And once again, just go to ColusaSunrise.com and you'll get all the information you need about Sunrise Landing. So happy that you were with us here on this show. Hope you had a chance to check out Ryno earlier today with Jerry Reynolds. Anything really stick out today? And the slowest month of the year in the NBA is August. Anything stick out?
One thing definitely did. We were talking about Kevin Huerter, and could this be a bounce back year for him? And Jerry's answer actually surprised some. Always a pleasure to have him on at 2:00. Here's the one and only earlier today.
Well, I think Kevin's going to have a bounce back year. He needs to have a bounce back year. He's an asset. He wasn't nearly as good last year. We've drummed that into the ground, but in my opinion, I still think he'd be better off for the Kings coming off the bench. I like Keon Ellis and De'Aaron together. I think defensively we saw not just Keon's defense, but De'Aaron's defense picked up tremendously. I thought they were such a nice match, and I think with Kevin coming off the bench, and since you've got a DeRozan, really Kevin could probably back up DeRozan some at the 3. You're going to be small anyway. And as well as 2. So he could kind of be a 2-3 guy coming off the bench as well as Monk. So now all of a sudden, as we've talked about, the bench last year wasn't really that good.
No. So, surprise, Napes? Do you agree, disagree?
Yeah, that's a little surprising to me, but it became less surprising to me when Jerry talked about him also backing up DeMar DeRozan because how many guards can you play? Malik Monk's going to play more. He's playing the most minutes. He's playing more minutes than Keon Ellis. Let's just call it the way it is. He's playing more minutes than Kevin Herter. So, we hear about a 3-guard rotation. Now you have Monk, Ellis, Herter. I mean, you got 4 guys, right? If you're going to start Ellis and Fox, then coming off the bench, Monk's number 1, Herter's behind him. So, yeah, the fact that he can go small and play small forward, okay, that sounds better.
Yeah, I think it does. And we see Monk play so well in the pick and roll off the bench in that second unit. Assuming that continues this year, there is a perfect spot for Kevin to make a living spotting up, getting some of those looks he was more used to in the 22-23 year. And he certainly has the length to play a little bit of 3. But I'm with Jerry about Keon being in the starting lineup. I think it makes all the sense in the world.
All right. Patrick says, any thoughts on Isaiah Thomas rumors? Not many. Listen, I'm a gigantic Isaiah Thomas fan. I love him as a person, loved him as a player. Just can't say enough great things about Isaiah, but he's had a lot of opportunities after his injury with Boston, and it just isn't there. And I don't know why it would change now. So I would love to see Isaiah Thomas, but as a player, I have my doubts now. And it's hard for me to say, because the one thing I've always done, I've never ever doubted Isaiah Thomas. I didn't doubt him when he was in Sacramento. I didn't doubt him when he went to Phoenix. I didn't doubt him when he went to Boston. I will never doubt that man, because his will is as big and as great as anyone I've ever been around. But he's had several opportunities with teams, I think 3 or 4, and he hasn't been able to stick. That tells me a lot.
Yeah, Skal Labissiere is coming back to the Stockton Kings. He has accepted a role that he excels at down there, and he's been a big part of what they've been able to do in developing some of the younger talent around him. Isaiah played a little bit in the G League last year, making his way back to Phoenix for the end of the season, eventually on a couple of short contracts. So I don't know if a role like that would be beyond Isaiah. Jerry had an interesting take today that the workouts that they're going to be doing, Isaiah Thomas, Juan Toscano Anderson, also a couple of other players, Lonnie Walker, most notably, those players may have approached the franchise asking for these workouts, which was news to me. Jerry said that is somewhat common this time of year for players looking to maybe get their foot back in the door, Napes.
Well, players need jobs. They need money. They need paychecks. So their agents are working, all 30 general managers, trying to get their foot in the door, but they're also trying to get their foot in the door where they feel that they have the better chance of sticking.
Sure.
Right. So like, if you are a player, you're probably not going to go get a tryout with the Boston Celtics. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
You have to figure out where, okay, I think I could stick here. I think I could be an asset to them. I think I could, based on their talent level or what have you. But again, I root for Isaiah Thomas every day, but I'm a little leery. And I love Skal Labissiere. What a great guy. Really
incredible.
One of my favorite guys. Love Skal. Just love him. But if he can make a home and G League is where it's at, and maybe pop up and down once in a while, I'm fine with that. But, his attitude is great. I love the man.
I had a couple of opportunities to talk to him last season. Incredible attitude, embraces the role,
Love
like
him.
I said, class, act all the way around, both guys.
Well, if your paths cross, you make sure that you give him my best, and you tell him
I will do
that I love him. He knows that, but you tell him anyway.
I will do that, certainly.
I love Skal. God, I love that guy. What a great. I used to, when we used to go to Portland, I always would reach out to him, or he'd come up to me, and we'd just sit down and talk for a while. Just what a great man. Love him. Great
so
guy.
That's so, like, to me, that's obscure. He wasn't with the Kings for a long period of time, right? And yet you had a relationship. He sticks out in your mind as one of those guys. What was it?
He was so easy to talk to, and he would always ask me questions. And a lot of the players don't ask you questions. You're the one that asking him questions. And he became very friendly with my son, Trent, who works for the Kings in the equipment room. But before that, he was a ball boy doing that type of stuff. And Skal took a liking to him. And so whenever I went to Portland, he'd come up to me, "Hey, how's Trent doing? How's Trent?"
That's
He
great.
took a genuine interest in my son. And he goes, "You make sure you tell him I said hi." And I go, "I promise you I will." And then I'd ask him, "How's everything going? You like it up here?" And we'd kind of talk for a couple moments. It was just easy, comfortable. And he always had a smile on his face. And his questions to me were of genuine interest, not just, well, I got to ask him questions too, because you know what I mean? It was genuine.
Sure.
And I just love the guy. Just can't say enough good things about him. And then I think when he came back to Sacramento and he ran into Trent, he said, "Hey, how's your dad doing?" He goes, "Make sure you tell your dad I said hi." Just I have
That's
I have a
awesome.
lot of affection for him. I'm a big fan of his.
Love it. Absolutely love it.
All right, so tomorrow, Wednesday, and I'll try to nail down a day for Sean. What do you think? Tuesday? I like Tuesday because
I
I
like
would love to be
Tuesday.
able to talk about the Monday night game.
Yep. I think Tuesday is perfect. Then as we get later into the season, you can preview the Thursday games, especially when you have multiple of them.
Yep. So I'll see if Sean can do Tuesday. You've got what time's your show tomorrow?
2:00. We will be back and better than ever. Make sure you join us. We'll be talking all things Kings and everything else going on around the NFL.
And then I'm good to be back here at 8:00 tomorrow.
Can't wait. I'll be back with you.
The only day I cannot do this week is Friday because at 8:00 I will be on an airplane. So I could try to do it from the plane, but I can't just guarantee the technological capabilities of the plane.
Okay, you're a well-traveled guy. I got to ask this. In this day and age in 2024, is it rude to recline your seat back on an airplane?
I think it is, yes. I think if you're going to recline your seat, I find that reclining it even 1 inch makes a big difference. So if I'm in economy, which I am in economy a lot these days, I will recline my seat back. First of all, I always look to see who's behind me. That's number one. If a kid is behind me, I don't have any problem. If a petite person is behind me, I don't have any problem. But if a guy my size is behind me, I don't. And if I do, I recline it literally 1 inch, which I find makes even a big difference. So that's my answer. What about you?
I don't usually recline it, but this discussion happened the other day when I was out and about, and they had the take that it was rude. And I'm like, interesting, but 1 inch, you've got your process that works.
I don't think it's rude if the person behind you is of smaller stature.
Correct.
All right, so like I always look behind. I always look to see who's sitting behind me.
Yeah, makes sense.
And I also look to see if anyone's behind me. If the seat's open behind me, then I recline my seat all the way.
Yeah, why wouldn't you? You're not bothering anybody.
But if there's a kid behind me, I recline my seat all the way. If there's a petite male or female behind me, I recline my seat all the way because I don't want to make their trip uncomfortable. So yes, absolutely.
All right. I appreciate it. Appreciate the feedback. Little side note here to end the show.
All right. Everyone, thank you very much. Please give us a thumbs up if you have not already done so. And if you have not yet subscribed to the show, we would appreciate you subscribing to the channel. And that way you'll know whenever we are bringing you content right here on If You Don't Like That. Don't forget, Ryno tomorrow afternoon, back here at 8:00 tomorrow.